Hello, and welcome to episode 7 of Talking is Hard. I am your host, Sydney, and I am joined, obviously, with my co host.
Max.
And today, actually, well, we'll start off with this. Happy August. As we are recording this, it is the first day of August. It's a new month. We're introducing some new topics, but I was actually thinking about something recently. Do you remember when we started talking for the first time?
Yes, yeah, I do, and I think that is kind of fitting for the topic that we're going to have today. But yeah, this has kind of been a long-awaited topic for us, to be honest. This has been something that we've kind of been wanting to talk about, I guess, since the thought of making our own podcast. So this is going to be a good one, I think. So it's going to be an interesting topic for sure.
Yeah, because I think we started. So for those of y'all who don't know, the way that in which me and Max have met, we met on Tinder, and this was back in, was it February, January, or something like that?
Maybe I think January, yeah, around that time.
Yeah. So, fitting enough for our topic today, we will be talking about hookup culture. But I don't know, I thought that was so interesting because we've been talking for as long as we've had, and I don't know. I feel like we've just come a long way with where we started and then where we're doing now. So yeah, but today's episode will be about hookup culture. We're gonna be discussing all the different aspects that come with hookup culture, our perspectives on it, how we feel like society views it, and just seeing where we stand on it. And yeah, so
there we go. Yeah, I think I guess kind of the first direction to kind of go with this is kind of talking about the fact that, with the topic of hookup culture, it's kind of like, I guess it's been probably normalized and probably experimented the most with our generation. I think maybe that people that were young in the 70s probably would disagree with us, but still, I just feel like it's been definitely more like a normal thing and definitely been more, I guess, less taboo of a thing with our generation. So,
yeah.
So I guess a first point to talk about or kind of highlight, and I guess to kind of get your views on is how does it skew the talking stage, and if it does, how does it skew the talking stage?
Well, I'll ask you this: what would you consider the talking stage?
I guess kind of when it's the feeling out process, right? Whenever you kind of obviously have mutual interest in each other as far as appearance or attractiveness or whatever, you kind of both have that, and then you're kind of talking to kind of see where things go or see what you foresee in the future with that person, as far as if you could see yourself dating that person, or if you could see yourself whatever with that person. I guess that period in time, how does hookup culture in a sense kind of skew that? Does it kind of, for some people, eliminate that stage? Do they, once they have that attraction and once they kind of start the conversation, does it just kind of naturally lend into a physical sense of relationship? Or I don't know, I guess how does hookup culture kind of affect that, I guess, is the
I think that I don't know, because I've heard people say that the talking stage doesn't even really exist. People have this mindset of either you want to be with me or you don't. I don't want to play any games. I'd rather just get straight to the point. So, I guess in regards to hookup culture, I guess it would. I don't know. I guess it would just make it I guess it just depends on the person. I feel like throughout this whole episode, we're gonna keep going back to this point where it just depends on the person. But I guess if it was me, I feel if I'm just wanting to hook up with someone, I probably will want to at least get to know them first before I do anything with them. I know for some people, like they don't necessarily care about this stuff. Like they just want to get straight into the action or whatever. And for some people, when it comes to like hooking up, it may just be let's talk first for like a few
Yeah.
weeks, and then if I do actually want to like get with you, then we'll do it. So I think everyone's different, and that's how I feel. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think you can kind of like tell in those situations like when someone's like mindset is a certain place too, based on like I guess the direction of the conversation. Like
Yeah.
if I think a lot of times like if the conversation is very much like I don't know, like getting to know you type questions, or I guess like wanting to know your interests and stuff like that. I think you can kind of tell that the person has like an actual interest in talking to you. I think if it starts to fall in line with more of like, um, I guess like I don't know, like I guess like what are you like they're talking about you in a physical sense, like talking about like the physical things that they like about you or things like that, or I don't know, I feel like the conversation is much more like I don't want to use the term simple, but I feel like it kind of can get more simple whenever the person's end goal is I guess hooking up. So I don't know, I guess that it kind of can skew the conversation a little bit, but I agree. I think there's definitely different factors, and it obviously definitely depends on the people involved. Because in a sense, there's like I guess like kind of like you worded it in a sense. There's some people don't even think that that stage even exists in the first place, but like I think there's even if it's not like necessarily a talking stage, like where there's like a process of you all talking for a long period of time, I think there's at least a feeling out stage. And in that feeling out stage, I think you can kind of tell like what someone's true intentions are, what they're leaning to, based on the things that they talk about, or how they kind of word things. So yeah, I guess the next thing I kind of wanted to get into is, and this is probably like one of the bigger points, because I think part of normalizing something and part of it being like culturally accepted and being like the something that's regular is kind of like how the media's influence is on it. So I guess I have a question as far as like, how do you feel like it's been popularized in the media or portrayed from a media aspect, like just talking about hookup culture in general?
Um, I think if we're talking more recent, probably discuss like the whole hot girl summer trend. Um, so, but I mean, I feel like I don't know. I feel like ever since like birth control was invented, like the whole idea of like hookup culture has like been around for a long time, and the media has sort of portrayed it in a sense of like like in movies and stuff, like um with women specifically, like the women who were more, I guess, like promiscuous or who were seen as like sex symbols in the movie, like obviously they just gave off this air of like being like it was seen as like cool to like
Yeah,
have sex with a bunch of different men and like not have any feelings attached to any of them, or date a bunch of dudes and like only use them for their money, or like only be with them because you knew that you could get something from them. um and the same thing could go for men as well, but like I don't know. But if we're talking more recent with the whole like hot girl summer trend or whatever, um I think a lot of it has been portrayed in the media, specifically through music, and
yeah,
just the way that like a lot of like pop and like R&B songs sound nowadays. Like there's like a lot of emphasis on like one night stands and like talking about like hooking up with different people, and not wanting to catch feelings, or you
yeah,
know they say that they did catch feelings but then they regretted it. And it's just like it's always viewed in like a very like lonely negative experience, and like nothing good can come from hooking up with someone, or like even if it did, like it's not going to last that long anyway. So uh yeah, but I don't know. I guess that's like how I've always perceived it, but
mhm.
what do you think?
Yeah, I think that you hit the nail on the head as far as that goes. Because I think music with this particular thing, this particular topic, I think music has been pretty much the biggest influencer as far as that goes. Like different artists that have either made music that is like definitely highlighting it. I think like I mean to be honest, like the Hot Girl Summer movement, the whole idea of it obviously is a concept that was created through music, and like so I think that that's probably been the biggest thing for sure. But no, I think definitely think you can see it in like TV shows and movies. I think that the I feel like the like in older high school movies or high school based movies or like young people based movies, I feel like that person you're talking about, like the who's supposed to be like the sex symbol or like the most like promiscuous, they've had like a more of a minor role. Like you were supposed to
Yeah,
recognize them and you were supposed to like know that either the main character had some sort of interest in there or something like that. But they were like a more of a minor character. I feel like nowadays in TV shows and movies, that character is one of the main characters. So that
yeah,
character is like, like you kind of like, I don't know. I guess you naturally just become a fan of that character just because, like, I don't know. Like, it's definitely been like an emphasis that's been more portrayed in and like you said, like a more of a positive version of that person, I guess. So, but yeah, definitely music, for sure. And that's that's kind of a thing too with our generation is that like music has definitely changed in the sense that not that things like this weren't talked about in music previously, but I would say it's at a whole different level like now versus what the past was for sure. Um, and I I don't know. I guess like it's just been like a natural progression. Like in a sense, I kind of think of like if you're thinking about the past, like thinking about I don't know, like someone like Lil Kim for instance, right? Like talking about certain things, and then now kind of as time has went on, then there's like the Nicki Minaj's of the world. Then there's like the Cardi B's, the Meg The Stallions, the City
yeah,
Girls. Like it's kind of like went in that trend. And then as far as like I guess that's something to highlight while we're talking about this subject. I feel like like men in music, for instance, like specifically, I guess you could say like hip hop and R&B, kind of always talked about these things. I think
yeah,
one of the progressions that you're noticing is I think it was few and far between that you saw like women talking about these subjects, and now it is much more normalized. In fact, I'd say it's probably like at the same like equivalent level. Like,
yeah,
and so there's a part of me though, as like a hip hop fan, and like I don't know, there's part of me is like that. I don't know, just thinking about like from like I guess you could even like factor inequality in this sense, but a lot of people I think get turned off sometimes by like that kind of music or that being talked about. I do, however, see a positive in the sense that it is talked about from a female perspective as much as it is a male perspective nowadays, because I feel like for a long time it was very one-sided in that sense, and I think now that it's kind of like on an equivalent level, I think that's actually better. So in a way, but it definitely has been a change for sure. And honestly, I would even say a change that I've noticed like through my life, like because there just wasn't. I don't know. It just wasn't as much of a thing. Like when I was like, if I think back to when I was younger versus now, it just seems like it's kind of, I don't know. Like you can tell that the changes in culture, like, and the changes in like the times has definitely shifted with music. Like it's just been like I guess those things have kind of been synonymous. They've been right next to each other in this. So yeah.
yeah. And there's still like, I mean, we still always have to acknowledge like there's still even with women women artists nowadays being more open about like their sexuality within their music or just their art in general. Like there is still that double standard that exists,
For sure.
with women still getting scrutinized for talking about sex, even though men talk about it in their stuff as well, even twice as much. So like, and
Yeah.
we also have to highlight like we can acknowledge that this type of stuff, like this isn't really anything new. I think it's just like it's more in our face now.
Yeah.
Because I feel like people were just a lot more like creative with like the ways in which they would talk about certain things in songs.
Yeah.
But yeah, and even with the whole like character like in movies and TV shows, the first thing that I had thought about was, have you seen Euphoria?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was like the main thing that I thought about when you brought up like the whole like that specific character is like the main focus of the show, because like with shows like Euphoria, like, but I feel like we're getting a little bit off topic, so we can, you know.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, but I think it's important, right? Like that whole conversation, because again, media, regardless of what we want to think, media influences us 100%. So I think it's important to kind of highlight that part of it. And I'm also glad that yes, very much still a double standard. I was not trying to get away from that. I just think that now that it's kind of at least somewhat equivalent as far as like, one, like the amount of like artists you hear like on the female side of things talking about things, and how much more like, I don't know, it's definitely more equivalent than it was. But no, there is 100% more of a double standard, because like, for instance, we'll say a song that got like a lot of mixed, like I will say there was a lot of people that enjoyed the song, there was a lot of people that turned into a meme essentially, and there's a lot of people that were against it, unfortunately. But like, we'll say like Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion song WAP, for instance, right? There have been probably like 100 or more versions of that song from the male perspective, basically, throughout history. But because there was like that one, it was like such a source of controversy in a sense. So yeah, no, I'm definitely with you. So media, yeah, has definitely played a big role, and I'm glad that you used that example of Euphoria. I think that's a perfect example of that. Like, it really, just because, yeah, like that's exactly what I mean. Like, beforehand, I don't think that character was a main character. Like, I don't think that that person was necessarily highlighted as much as definitely you see it now today in various amounts of shows, to be honest. So I guess the next thing I'd like to transition to is kind of like, if you think about like yourself, like how would you, and I think about myself, how would you say that we fit into that culture? Like, for, I guess, speaking for yourself, like how do you think you fit into this culture, if you do at all?
I think just being a human being, like obviously we all have our needs, like physical needs, like sexual needs, whatever. So it's not like we can just like, sit here and say that we've never like thought about this type of stuff. But I feel like me personally, just growing up, like one thing that I always like valued was just like that emotional connection with other people. As someone who sort of lacked that growing up, it's something that I've sort of like craved as I'm transitioning into my adult years. So that's why I'm sort of like not wanting to participate in hookup culture, just because like I know sort of the whole mindset behind it. And I know that like there are only people out there who just want to mess around just to mess around, and like don't necessarily care about getting to know the other person on an emotional level, or connect with a person on an emotional level, or like the people who kind of just view sex as this like, you know, like disposable thing, like something that's just like as simple as like going on a walk. Like I just, I just don't have that same mindset towards it. And so yeah, I don't think that's the only reason why I don't participate in hookup culture, because I just feel like I'm too sensitive for that, and like sensitive in the sense where I just care too much about people in general to want to do that. And like I don't want to run the risk of becoming emotionally attached to the person that I do, if I were to participate, that I wouldn't end up, having sex with, like, because no one wants to be that person where like you get attached and then you feel stupid because the other person doesn't feel the same way, and you're just kind of there. It's just like, well, damn, I feel like I kind of just lost a part of myself that I could have just kept if I just minded my business. So, but yeah, I personally don't participate in it. I don't, condemn anyone from like for doing it, or like, make anyone feel bad or whatever, because I know everyone's different and we all want different things for different reasons. So, but for me, it's just not something that I feel like I need to be getting involved with. So.
Yeah, no, I get that 1,000%. I think that you said pretty much everything that all the points you hit right there. I feel like were said beautifully, to be honest. Um, I'm going to say that I am very much similar to you in that sense because, and I think it definitely took time. By the way, I think it definitely took me getting older and having more experiences in life to understand like the kind of person I guess like I am, because that's the thing that we have to all keep in mind, right? Is that we're all very different, and it takes a long time to actually very much still figuring out who I am. I think that's just part of the transition from like that older adolescent stage to like adulthood. I think we're all just kind of trying to find our way, find our footing. Um, so I think as that has went on, time has went on, I've realized that I'm definitely not the person for it. And maybe too, because I guess like I consider myself a passionate person, and that's passionate about everything that I do in life and pretty much. And so that doesn't deviate when it comes to relationships or that kind of like thing. Like I kind of have to have like you said, like an emotional connection with the person. I have to have some kind of, I don't know, like I'm just, I don't know. I feel like I can't, um, I don't know. It's just not, it's hard to explain because I guess because we all are so like unique in that sense, right? Like there's people who can just like kind of shut off the emotional part of that and stuff like that. But I don't know. It's not for me, I guess. It's just not, with time, it's just not really what I'm into. I definitely very much like to build a connection with someone. I like to, if I'm going to like have a relationship with someone in a physical sense, I definitely want to be able to have a relationship with them as far as like being able to like talk to them, being able to laugh with them, or I don't know, like just hang out with them. Like it's very hard for me. It'd be very difficult for me to just like, I don't know, just participate in just hooking up with someone and then just kind of like, just going about my day afterwards. They're like not like, I guess like not continuing the thought of them and stuff like that. So that would be, I don't know. So I'm with you in that sense, and because you covered so many of the topics with your point, that I kind of think that there's not even, I don't really even need to expand upon that really, just other than the fact that I agree and that I would say that I'm very similar in that aspect. So yeah, well, that's actually so okay. That is, I guess, a segue into the next like point of like, so like the friends with like benefits like thing. Like, could you, like, I guess like talking about that in a sense, like, um, I mean, obviously it's possible for people to do that because obviously it's a term that exists for a reason. It's something that people have done, but would it be possible like to like just be friends with someone and like have a connection with them because you are their friend, but then also, like be like have like a physical element to your friendship as well? Like, would that be possible?
Um, I think if you are both good at like communicating and also like setting boundaries with each other,
Yeah.
like especially like emotional boundaries too.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know. I think it just depends on like maturity level because I know we mentioned this when we were planning this episode. Like maturity level is plays a big part in this entire discussion. So
Yeah.
I think if you're able to like just be honest with each other and keep that open communication and setting, like just being very clear about the relationship and like what you expect to get out of the relationship with the other person um and just like I don't know, because I feel like it can work for people. But I feel like it can also sort of like turn messy for other people because maybe down the line, like say one person does end up catching feelings for the other person, but like the other person may be trying to pursue someone else, and that person may feel as if like their partner, whatever, their whoever they're with is like cheating on them in a sense, even though like they never
Yeah.
really established that they were dating, like they're just having fun. So like
Yeah.
I think just I think just being open about it, and like also making sure that you're with the right type of person if you're trying
Yes.
to do something like that, because you know but that's how I view it.
Yeah, no, I would say that I think about it in the same sense, and I think the maturity level thing is a very important part of this, and I think it'll even be something that we revisit here in a second, as this conversation goes on. But I definitely think if there's clear communication and there is a maturity sense of things, like where like you like I don't know, where you all very openly discuss like what the idea you have is and stuff like that, then yeah, I think that can work. And then maturity also has to be, I guess, kind of a thing too when it does come to the emotional aspect. Like if you, and the reason I say that is because not because like obviously you can't help like certain emotions, right? So there's not maturity in that sense. But if you know that you can't, like if you know that you have an attraction to that person that is beyond just like the physical sense, then I think part of the maturity level is telling that person that and being open with the fact that listen, like I can't, I don't know if that's going to work for me type thing. But yeah, I just think that that's just got to be part of it. It has to be a communication based thing. But I definitely think people can pull it off. I've seen people pull it off. So definitely a thing that is possible. But that kind of, I guess, is a kind of a segue into an age old question that's kind of has a twist on it a little bit. But like, is it possible for men and women to be friends, right? That conversation has been forever in a day. But the difference is, I guess, is it possible for men and women to be attracted to each other and still just be friends?
I think so. I think that yeah, I think so. I feel like even just regardless of like gender in general, like
Exactly.
if
Yeah.
you I mean, if you think your friends are cute, then your friends are cute. Like I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah. Again, like I just feel like when it comes to like men and women specifically, I think just making it very clear
Yeah.
that you want to just remain friends, and like because there's a difference, like people can be kind of like like weird and like try to do certain things and like lead people on and make them feel as if like there's more to the story than what's actually happening, and like people just like not communicating clearly and like whatever, or just like acting a certain way, or like I don't know. But I think if you're just very like upfront and honest with how you feel about the other person from the get-go, instead of like being ambiguous or like whatever, I think yeah, men and women can be friends. And I feel like it's just weird that that even has to be a question, because I feel
Right.
like it should just be common sense, like because like at the end of the day, we're all just humans. Like humans should
Yeah.
just be allowed to be friends, whatever. But yeah, the fact that people still like it's frustrating too. And I'm sure even from like a guy's perspective, like saying that like, oh, that girl, like she's my friend, and like people still questioning you, like, okay, but like, did you hit though? Like, like whatever. It's like no, like we're just friends. Like it's still like a weird concept for people to like fully grasp.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I do think that yeah, um, yeah, I think so. So yeah,
Yeah, I definitely think so as well. And I'm 1,000% with you. I'm 1,000% with you in the fact of like, regardless of gender type thing, like if you can find your, like you said, like if you think your friends are cute, it is what it is. Like
yeah,
you can kind of find them like in that sense. But also, I even think that The fact that, like you said, the fact that we even have to have the question, and to be honest, I think this is kind of both our thoughts when we just kind of added that in, just because it is like such a commonplace like question even to this day. So I guess like just to hit on it and be able to talk on about that. But yeah, no, it's certainly very much like, I don't know, like it's like the concept of that for some people is still so foreign, I guess, like the idea of that being the case, which is honestly kind of terrifying in a sense to think that there's like people walking around that just like literally just don't think that there's any kind of relationship that can happen that's not like, I don't know, like just like it's stopping at a friendship point, that it has to be like more to the story type thing. Like and also I think if you are just kind of deciding that you're not going to be friends with like, either like the opposite sex or the sex you're attracted to, you're not going to be friends with like that group, I think you're kind of limiting yourself, to be honest, because I think that you're limiting a lot of connections that you can have with people, a lot of positive connections you can have in life. But yeah, that question definitely has just been around forever. And I don't know, it also like, yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one for sure. But I'm definitely appreciate your points on that. And I would say I also kind of second those points, and I'm kind of with you in that sense. And I guess like to revert back a little bit to what we were talking about earlier and what was kind of like a part of our discussion earlier in the conversation, the dating app thing. Is it possible to make genuine connections from a dating app?
I would say yes, because I've seen it firsthand.
Yeah.
In our case.
Yeah.
So I think yes. Yeah, I mean, because like I'm sure there are definitely like a lot of stories of like people who meet on dating apps and like maybe, their intentions were to just like hook up with other people or date other people, but
Yeah.
then maybe they just ended up, becoming friends anyway.
Yeah.
Or they started dating and then they realized that maybe they don't want to be together in that sense, but they can still be friends afterwards. So I do think that it is possible. So yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that it is important to think about, because at the end of the day, dating apps, just like they're all social media apps essentially,
Yeah.
right? All social media apps kind of work in the same sense, right? And they're kind of a big forum, big like I don't know, a big like hub for people to be able to communicate and people to be able to find interests similar to other people, and I don't know, just like find communities that they belong in, or like also like just I don't know, be able to talk. And if you think about dating apps in that same sense that you think about Facebook, for instance, or Twitter or Instagram, if you think about it in the same scope of that, then yeah, you can make genuine, or even like online gaming, if you kind of tie in all those things together, that you're going to find friends or people that you like in those places. So why would a dating app be any different? Because it's literally the exact same thing. The only difference is that a lot of times you're being able to see if you find the person attractive first to start the conversation. But then like, yeah, we're people at the end of the day. We're not just like these emotionless, like just bots that just kind of go throughout life and just do certain things. Like you have to, I don't know, like you're eventually going to find people that you just have genuine connections with. So yeah, that's also something that I think maybe with the older generations that they kind of like don't think that that's a thing as much, but I think it definitely is a thing. And it's another question, to be honest, that is almost silly in a sense that like, obviously you could do that, but for some people I think it's still like kind of a strange idea. But what's kind of interesting too is that I've kind of thought about it in a sense that like dating apps are, if you think about it, even in they're like a more advanced version of what was like back in the day, like a pen pal type situation, like something like that. It's kind of like a more detailed and more advanced version of that. So it's kind of like this thing has always been around. It's just like a newer concept of it, but definitely think it is possible 100% to have genuine connections. And like you said, kind of firsthand experience here on this podcast. So yeah, I think that's an awesome thing. I guess to segue is to more of like the more not so fun like part of the podcast is kind of talking about the discussion of anxiety and the role it plays in hookup culture, and kind of like how that like impacts things. I would start out by saying that I guess to piggyback off the conversation we were having previously, like whether we fit into this culture or not, or fit into this like I don't know, this element of society as of late. I would say that probably, as someone who suffers from anxiety, that is probably part of it as well. That's probably part of the reason I don't, just because, like, there's almost like I don't know, like a fear of not being able to have like the person I'm like, how do I word this? Like, I guess in a sense, like I can't. There's like almost like a fear associated with it. Like I just can't like not have like I can't like split myself and like have a physical and then not have an emotional like tie. And I think that kind of like is a worrisome thought to me to even like consider, just because I know that it wouldn't be like positive for me, just because I know the kind of person I am, and I know that it wouldn't like, I don't know, it wouldn't work for me as well. And so I think there's naturally just like I don't know, an anxiousness that comes along with like I don't know, thinking about it. I would say that also like, I think in a sense too, like it kind of like when you can tell that someone's like kind of, that's more the idea they have, I guess, when you start like initially talking to them. I think it can even be like an anxious thing there, like knowing how to like respond to that person, or knowing how to communicate with that person, especially if you don't necessarily like want the same things that they want, because in a sense you still like don't want to hurt like feelings, or you don't want to like I don't know, like I guess like ruin a whole like like experience with a person. But at the same time, you have to kind of know yourself a little bit and know what's best for yourself, and kind of be able to, I don't know, have those internal discussions of like of things like that. But yeah, I definitely think anxiety plays a huge role. And actually, I would love to not only hear your perspective of it, but honestly, your perspective too, as a woman, as far as this goes as well. Like, just as far as societal pressure of hookup culture, and just different elements of hookup culture. So I would love to get your views on that.
I think a lot of it just has to do with like, in a sense, like that fear, but I would say mainly like that fear of like missing out.
Yes.
Feeling like you're not in the loop, or you're
Yeah.
not, like relevant, like whatever, like if you're not doing the same
Yeah.
thing that everyone else your age is doing.
Yeah.
And even specifically with women, like women, we have like this expectation already to like have children by a certain age, and like, like you don't want to wait too long to, find your person, because like there's just like this obsession with like doing everything while you're still young, you're still
Yeah.
like fresh or whatever. Because nobody wants to date, someone who's all used up or like all dried up, whatever. And like this whole biological clock, and like
Yeah.
I don't know, this is like, I feel like going back into like the media is just always like a portrayal of like young women that are out, that are dating, that they're being flirty and all this stuff.
Yeah.
You never see like older women doing that same thing, because like it's not seen as like as desirable. So I guess just like that anxiety of feeling like when you're young, you need to like, sleep with as many people as you can, because, you don't want to like, I don't know, feel as if you're not making enough use of like your body, I guess, while it's still considered like at its prime or whatever.
Yeah.
And so there's that. And then like, even just, I think if you are someone who is more on the sensitive side, like it sort of is a struggle, I guess emotionally, because you feel as if you'll never really be able to find like your Prince Charming, because there's this like perception that guys only care about, or at least guys in our age group only care about, you know, that one thing, and they
Yeah.
don't actually care about going, deeper than that or going further with that. So there's like a lot of like trust issues, and why, the whole like men suck, men aren't whatever, like
Yeah.
that, conversation.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a lot of based in like just fear of like missing out, and then fear of like not wanting to wait too long to like start dating, or
Yeah.
feeling like, even the whole conversation of like body count. Like if your body
Yeah.
count is too high, then you're seen a certain way, but if it's too low, you're seen a certain way. So I don't know, but it's just it's it's a lot of factors, and I wish that I could just like go through each one, but I just feel like we could be
Yeah.
sitting here for a while. But yeah, that's basically like how I feel personally. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you, and I think again highlighted a ton of things that are important there, especially like yeah, I could definitely see the pressure too from like the biological clock. I think that was like a perfect like thing to highlight because that's definitely talked about quite a bit. Um, and I'll say too that part of the thing is that part of the fear I guess that I have too is that I don't know. I guess I don't like to waste time when it comes to relationships in my life, and this is actually for friendships or like dating type relationships and things like that. I kind of just always like to know the person like deeper. I kind of always want to have those connections because if you think about it, I guess like wow, to go like really deep into this conversation is that um, we're only here for like a certain amount of time, and like I don't know. The people that I interact with, I want to truly like interact with and truly like, get to know, have like, and have a connection with on a certain level. And then also like, create memories with. And so I guess there's a fear of not getting to do that based on like, on that. And to, I don't know, like, I guess that's definitely part of the reason for me that I don't know, I kind of steer away from more so from that, even though it is popularized, even though, like you said, like, it's just, I don't know, like you can almost get like teased or judged for not doing that sometimes. Kind of interesting. And like you said, you definitely get the same thing if it's a higher body count situation as well. So it's weird. It's weird to like I don't know, navigate that because it's just I guess society in a sense, right? We always want to like point things out. We always want to like I don't know, target one thing or the other. Like anything it's weird. There's no such thing as normal. So there's no such thing as like normal or regular or whatever. But it's like anytime something deviates from the idea of normal or like in any way, either on the lesser end or the like whatever, we always seem to like have to point it out, have to talk about it, have to like like single that person out. I mean, a perfect example of that is like high school, for instance, like in a way. And I would say high school is pretty much like the prime for like these discussions kind of in a sense because they don't really I don't know. I don't think that they happen on universities, but it's not as much. I think like there's one obviously something that's happening is the maturity level is increasing. To go back to the maturity aspect of things, but just I don't know. Like it for some reason, it's just like the something that is like discussed way too often. And to be honest, my whole viewpoint on the whole subject is that people should be able to do whatever they please and like talk to interact with people however they would like to because it's their life and we shouldn't I don't know we shouldn't put labels on things or shouldn't like judge people for that. You like what you like and that should be kind of the end of it. But unfortunately we just live in a society where we have to like pinpoint things or we have to like I don't know make a big deal out of something even if it's not and even if it's none of our business. And that goes like into so many things, right? Like even or like if you think about like orientation for instance, for some reason like people will be so pressed about someone having a different orientation but for what reason? It literally affects them in no way in particular. Just like if someone's body count is low would not affect you, if someone's body count is high does not affect you, but for some reason it's just I don't know, the thing to do is just to, you know, talk about those things and to discuss those things. So I don't know. I guess, and this is like the perfect, like, you know, switch to that, to the next topic that we had is, has it changed how we interact, like as people? Like, has this culture, has the more discussion of like you said it earlier, like sexual liberation, the more intense discussion of like I don't know, just the more normalizing of like sexual activity and things like that. Has it changed how people interact in general?
I will say that I think because of this, it's like causing more people, specifically like on the internet, to talk about, like to openly talk about like their sexual experiences,
Yeah.
both the good and the bad,
Hmm.
and to not have it be like a whole thing, just like a very casual thing, just like bring awareness that these things, you know, happen, that they can happen, and that they do happen. Um, and like, regardless if, you know, you are someone who hasn't had any experience with it, or if you are someone who has had some experience with it, like, it doesn't really matter. Like, I feel like anyone can sort of be a part of the discussion because it affects it, in a sense, like it affects everybody in
Yeah.
some way, shape, or form. I feel like even regardless of, you know, your age, whether you're someone in our age group or if you're a little bit older, or if you're still a teenager, like it can affect everybody. I feel like it's made the topic of like dating and sex, I think a little bit more casual. But
Yeah.
I do feel like, I don't know. I guess when it comes to like how we sort of um like, it's like we're having more conversations about it, but I still feel as if like there's still a lot of ignorance
Yeah.
behind certain things when it
Yeah.
comes to this stuff, like, and also like a lot of like misinformation being spread around too. Um and so I don't know. I'll just say I think, you know, it's causing more people to like be more open about it and talking about it more.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's how I feel. So
Yeah, I definitely think it has certainly changed us in a way, but I think the way it's changed us to interact is definitely has made things more of a talking point. Like you said, I think that it, I don't know, it kind of, I don't know, I think it is in a sense like kind of, um, has affected confidence. I would say that it's affected confidence in a positive way and a negative way. I think it just kind of depends on the personality type in this like time frame. But I think that it's, I don't know, it's definitely just been something that you can tell that there's been some sort of shift in society as far as it goes. And I would say, like you said, it affects, I think that part of it has definitely affected like younger people from us, or like older people from us as well. Um, but yeah, I think I, the thing is that I actually think that it could end up being like a positive thing, and that's a positive thing if we can talk about these things, and it's like there's a like a, I guess, like a safety element associated with it, and that we like, let's, okay, we're talking about these things much more openly than we did before. That's great, but like let's like add in like the like, I guess, like the safety elements of things, and like make it more of a conversation, like even if there's like classes or like group discussions or things like that about it, just because I don't know, I think it's important. Like I think obviously it's a part of the human experience at some point or another, and so I don't know, I think, but I definitely think that the culture in general has definitely impacted in a way that you can certainly see a shift happening of some sorts. Now, what direction that ends up going in, is time will tell. Um, but I don't know. I think it can, in many ways, actually be a positive, in like as time goes on. But I think it's just a matter of how we use it and how we kind of go about things, which I don't know, can definitely go north or south, because humans, exceptional and flawed at the same time. So it really just depends. There's been ton of times where we've, I guess, fumbled certain like opportunities like this to expand on something in a positive way. But I really think that there's a good point and there's something good and positive to enhancing the conversation about these things, but then also, and for the culture kind of shifting in this way, I guess, but definitely I could see negatives as well. So yeah, I guess like, we've kind of, for the most part, talked about kind of how our views are with it and kind of our thoughts and how we think about certain things. I guess the important thing kind of like we want to, and this is something we've discussed on previous podcasts that we want to do, is we never want to like, our podcast again is very open in the sense we want it to be a discussion. We want it to feel like a place where people feel like their opinions are safe, they are safe, and that we can talk about all types of things. And so part of that is also talking about the opposite of maybe what our viewpoint might be on certain subjects. And so I guess we wanted to take this opportunity to acknowledge the other side of things. And so we kind of wanted to, I guess, take a second to acknowledge, like, okay, what are the like benefits of hookup culture? Like, what are some of the positive things about hookup culture? And I guess I will pass that to you first to allow you to, say some of the things on your mind about that.
I would definitely say I think that it has sort of like made the conversation around just on like dating, a lot of people or like having sex, just, a lot more less taboo. And, we're not putting on to these same like conservative viewpoints that like, you only need to date, to marry, and that you're only allowed to be with one person and all that stuff, having to settle. I think it allows people to sort of find themselves in a sense of like, helping them learn what they like, what they don't like, and learning more about who they are as a person. And even, sexually helps people like understand themselves better, as far as like their bodies and like what they like, what they don't like, and all that stuff, and like just being exposed to different things in that sense. So, and I think it definitely helps, sort of if you're trying to like get out of your comfort zone and you are trying to sort of like, explore different things and experience different things. I think hookup culture could be a positive thing, and just I feel like, it's a good way to just meet different people. I remember, like, I was asking my mom, like, advice, like, she would sort of, like, give me when it came to, like, entering my 20s and, like, entering adulthood for the first time, all that stuff. One of the biggest things was that, the importance of, like, dating and, like, the importance of getting to know other people and not just, like, settling on the first person that you see, like, being able to have that experience and being able to just explore your options, see what's out there, and you can make a decision by then. So I do think hookup culture could be useful in that sense, and especially when you're young, you don't really know what it is that you want, like like we're still trying to figure ourselves out every day, so like and our interests can change by the year, like.
Yeah.
So, I think hookup culture could be beneficial in that sense too. So I don't think it's all negative. I just feel like there are just certain aspects of it that can be perceived as negative. But I think as long as you're smart and that, you are just not wilding too much, I think, it could be a good way to just learn about yourself and to have fun. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that I definitely agree with every point that you said there, and I think that I think it's kind of important too to say that, like, yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, this conversation, just because we're giving our opinion on like what maybe we think or like how we go about things or what we fit into, etc., those are not necessarily like saying that something is like negative. It's just like saying like what our viewpoint, I guess, on those things are for us personally. And that's the cool thing about all types of discussions, right? Is that there's going to be a unique element because we are human and we are different, and we're all going to have different kind of viewpoints and about different topics that we talk about. But yeah, no, I definitely think that there are certainly a lot of positives in the sense of like exactly what you said, in the sense of like getting out of your comfort zone a little bit. And I think the biggest thing probably is teaching yourself things, because we are like kind of in that stage of like, again, like learning to like be adults, kind of deciding the things that we like, the kind of person we're going to end up being in this life. So I think it can definitely teach you like things that you're going to like, what you prefer, and not just prefer like in a physical sense, but what you prefer in a like sense of like person too, like the type of people that you like to interact with and be around and things like that. I think being extremely positive in that sense, and it can kind of like let you know the things that you do want to look for, the things that you do, you know, like, and basically the things that you hit on. I think that also it can kind of like, as much as it can, you can kind of find the people that you're interested in. Like you can kind of like maybe find interest yourself, like maybe in talking to a certain person or being with a person, you kind of like formulate an interest or formulate something that you like that you didn't know that you liked before. Like you kind of, I don't know, it can all be kind of that. And like you said, there's just the element too of like being like having like fun as a person too. I guess a counter argument to something I said earlier, not kind of argument, but a counter to viewpoint of something I said earlier is like the fact that I was saying that like life is short and I want to make those like relationships and stuff and interactions matter. Well, I guess part of that, another way you could look at it if you flipped it, is like life is short. So like
Yeah,
you kind of
that's literally what I was thinking.
Yeah, like you want to have like certain experiences and do certain things just to, I don't know. So like just for like a purpose of fun. So yeah, this is definitely a topic that like could be very different amongst, I feel like if you polled like our like age group, it could be all over the place, to be honest, the kind of responses you would get about this certain topic. But I think it's certainly important. I think it's a major discussion, a major thing in society currently, and I think it's only getting like more progressive in that direction of talking about like, again, like the media influence. I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon. That we're kind of in that mold, so that's going to be kind of what it is, whether that's music, whether that's television shows, movies, etc. And I think it's just going to be a discussion for quite some time, and you know, kind of interested like to see how that changes over time, like how newer generations, how that impacts them, and how this whole thing kind of goes from there. But I think I think it is ultimately, I think it is a controversial topic, but I think it's a good one for us to be able to discuss. And I think it's, again, just something that, I don't know. It's just important to talk about, and I think that we can kind of take the whole wave of culture right now, as far as this goes, and kind of flip it into a positive, as far as like being much more open with conversations and teaching, and I don't know, like just, I don't know, embracing learning and embracing like safety and all types of different things. I think it can be used in such a positive light, and I think it can be also used in a positive light as far as like, you know, we're also in a time of like a great conversation as far as like body positivity and things like that. I think that there can be that these two things can be kind of tied together and can be a good thing as well. But it all depends on how we use it. And I'm sure that this will be a topic, like many others, that we're going to have on our podcast that we revisit in time, because you never know what could change. You never know what could happen that could alter the conversation. So I definitely think it could be something we talk about further. And also, we would love to get people's opinion on this topic. And if we want to continue this discussion with someone who's interested to talk about it, that would also be great down the line as well. But I really enjoyed this episode. I think it was really important to have this episode. I think it was probably like, I don't know, we haven't really had a topic necessarily like this before. So I think it was good to kind of have that and kind of expand our podcast horizons, I guess, as far as that goes. But I really enjoyed it. I think it was a great discussion as a whole. Sid, I think you killed it, and I don't know, I think it was an awesome podcast. So yeah.
Yeah, and I agree. I think you killed it as well. So if you enjoyed this episode, you know, make sure to show us some love Also, give us your opinions, as Max said. Like, how do y'all feel about this conversation? Do you agree with us? Do you not agree with us? Are there any points that we missed that you want to also highlight? Let us know in the comments. And yeah, we will see y'all in the next one. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see y'all later.